The United States is a commodity-based beef industry. And at times, we're talking about an industry that'll generate $100 billion in sales or $100 billion worth of dollars going through that industry.
There's going to be a lot of pressure in the United States and lots of other places to maintain our cherished natural resources, especially ones that are highly valued, like riparian areas, fisheries habitat. There's still going to also be a big demand to graze these areas.
We're trying to identify an arid, adapted animal.
So being able to identify animals that are well adapted to this environment is one of the key decisions and factors that influence how livestock managers, ranchers can conduct their business. The cattle that we produce here at NMSU's CDRC they're very desirable. I mean, we have the bull sale every year.
In the scientific term, we'd say that's germplasm release.
Oh, okay.
We create Brangus, we breed Brangus, and we sell that to the public. The same way we do with varieties of onions or varieties of alfalfa. And our goal in that germplasm release is to create something new, not propagate what everybody else is doing, is try to add something to the already germplasm that exists and try to give the breeders some additional tools. And that's also what we do in the plant arena too. I like it when they get it all over their face. Like this one here, watching see getting it all over his face.
Yeah.
She's fat like that. And I mean, when it's really good, she gets so fat it's like fat shakes when she walks. And we're just like, she's a freak, right? Cows aren't supposed to be that fat. Cattle genetics in the desert Southwest has seen a lot of transition over several hundred years. The Spaniards brought the original cattle here, which were the Criollo cattle, and then those cattle crossed and made Texas Longhorns that were on big herds that got drove to railheads. So then we got into the era of trying to really produce cattle for performance. And so by about 1900 to 1950, almost all the cattle in this region became Hereford cattle. And Hereford or white-faced and had a really hard time dealing with this environment. So then people started doing crossbreeding and trying to cross with things that would make the animals more environmentally fit. And Angus really became prominent after 1950. And Angus is the most known animal in that. Doesn't mean all Angus are better than other cattle. It's just Angus are the most recognized. You hardly go to any kind of restaurant or even a fast food chain today, they want to have some kind of Angus product on the menu. Because the Brangus, being 5/8 Angus, are going to have very good carcass, but 3/8 Brahman, still enough, what we would say enough Brahman or enough ear from the eared breed to give them the environmental tolerance.
There's no question the cattle today are much more productive than they were 30, 40, 50 years ago and more. I mean, but the reason for a lot of that is the consequences of low cost petroleum. I mean, low cost oil really helped that out. You could fertilize. And so a lot of the big cattle production that came through the southeastern United States, very successful, but a lot of that was based on being able to fertilize cheap. Well, with high price oil, fertilizer is not cheap anymore, and the amount of fertilization on rangelands and pasture lands is really dropping off. So what we want now is cattle. We need to be able to think about cattle that are adapted to their environment, can survive without huge inputs. That's what I'm driving at.
Alfredo!
Hey, Laurie.
Oh, I'm scaring him off. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you.
Thanks so much for coming out and to tell us about the Criollo.
Criollo program is we're trying to identify an arid, adapted animal. And one of the main things that we're trying to emphasize is that these animals do not need to be supplemented. We may think that they're lacking in weight for their age, but I think that if we really do the economics on it, I think that we've got an animal that's pretty efficient on what they're eating. Well, we can see that the Criollo will go up into high areas. They'll go up the mountains. I think that they're better utilizers of the area. You get better distribution, which is very important here.
If we can use more areas sustainably by going and grazing on steeper slopes and things like that, that'll have value because there'll be higher price, bigger demand for the food in the future. So I think the chances to use all our areas are going to be higher. Now, if you talk about grazing distribution, it's a trait that's expressed over months. It's this accumulation of numerous decisions of where you went, It's like you're trying to express the trait of where you go shopping. I mean, do you shop, are you just a straight Walmart guy, or you go to the mall, or do you do some combination of both? And so it's a much more complex trait than just whether you weigh a lot or you don't weigh a lot.
And so it used to take 6 years to get a proof on a bull. Should we use this bull as an ASR, yes or no? It took 6 years of growing that bull, collecting some semen and putting some of his daughters on the ground, having his daughters have calves, before we could actually determine if that was a decent bull or not. And so by genomic information now, they can do that by year of age. So they took 6 years out of the process. That's amazing.